Startups may be small companies, but they can play a significant role in economic growth. They not only create jobs, but contribute to economic dynamism by spurring innovation and injecting competition. Hello and welcome to Doing Business in Rwanda. You're with me, Naringwa Fiana Muthoni. In this episode, we'll look at the startup ecosystem here in Rwanda. From policy evolution to the biggest challenges and opportunities, we explore the startup wave of wealth creation. As one of the fastest growing economies here on the continent, Rwanda is working towards becoming a high-income nation by 2050, and new entrepreneurs play a massive role in stimulating the economy of the nation.
The role of startups are really, I'll just give it a scale of 0 to 10. I'll give it an 8 business models that really have very little reliance on natural resources, but more on the knowledge economy. So how we translate what we have from the knowledge economy into business and profitability, or that creates opportunities for all, I believe is what the role of startups is going to be. Vision 2050. That vision is that by that time, GDP per capita will have grown to $12,000. So for that to happen, really, it cannot be through the traditional type of economics that we've always done. Have very little reliance on natural resources, but more on the knowledge economy. So how we translate, or that creates opportunities for all, I believe is what the role of startups is going to be.
On one side, you have startups that are serving the needs of historically underserved populations, into access to finance, water access, energy, off-grid energy. So they're creating new business models. They have this proximity to the end consumer, and they're really serving that last mile that large institutions have not been doing.
With economic and structural reforms implemented through a series of national strategy transformation plans, Rwanda has been preparing to provide the most conducive environment to startups.
In the past years, in the past vision 2020 was to spread the infrastructure, internet infrastructure across the country. That has really played a big role in catalyzing the ecosystem. So now the other part in the digital infrastructure that is needed is the data centers. In addition to trainings, capacity building, the things that we have seen are the big elements that are needed to grow the ecosystem and to support the ecosystem.
Significant growth in the demand for contactless solutions due to the pandemic has also accelerated the employment of startups that operate digitally. But where does Rwanda stand in this race?
I must confess that yes, we're a little bit behind in terms of number of startups and the size of startups. That is a combination of course, market size, but we are on track. In terms of growth rates, we are seeing a tremendous growth in the space, and especially as you mentioned, that we are now in a digital economies across the world. So we believe that wave is finding Rwanda ready to really take on and thrive in the next coming years.
The growing robustness of the startup ecosystem has enabled entrepreneurs to think outside of the box to find new solutions to old problems, like Cosmotive, a social enterprise in the form of an app that is providing increased access to maternal health to women during a pandemic.
I think from COVID, that's the time everyone had to embrace the benefits of using all these technologies towards improving their health and everything. So we got we got an increase in the traffic. Women were still having their periods, women were still getting pregnant and also giving birth. So all the products that we were producing and also the services that we were providing were needed. And we had to increase our technologies. We had keeping looking for what we didn't have. That was for us the motivation to keep improving and innovating in what we are providing.
Despite unique ideas and a hearty drive to realize them, entrepreneurs face a number of challenges when starting a new business, especially with funding, as shared by the founder of Bongalo, a homegrown African alternative to Airbnb, specializing in the needs and demands of the African consumer.
Or any other sector that is not fintech hasn't really been getting enough from the funding that has been coming into the continent. I believe that most funds is one of the biggest need for every startup to move to a company stage and actually scale to different markets. At the stage where we are, we just need to pump in a lot of marketing in the market, more people knowing about what we're doing, more visibility. So in general, funding has been our biggest challenge.
It's an African problem, actually, when you look into the whole continent. You see that you don't see many people investing in early stage startup company, but are investing in a startup company that really have very good revenues, and that's when the risks are really being reduced at the end of the day.
While some consider funding to be their biggest challenge, others have found it difficult to navigate business circles without network, along with a shortage of skills.
I wanted to do something that has a better impact on the society, but also sustainable. So for me, I would say having the practical skills, not that thing that is written somewhere in theory, and also having this network of mentors.
To spike growth, creativity, and sustainability among startups, the government of Rwanda launched the Entrepreneurship Development Policy in 2020, and it is currently working on a new Startup Act of Rwanda to improve the entrepreneurship sector here in the country.
The Entrepreneur Development Policy, the earlier versions of it, thought from a basic, the traditional trade and commerce models. But what we have seen in the last version of it that was released in 2020 is that some of these aspects for digital have been included, as well as a focus into micro, because we still have quite a majority of the businesses being micro. Tax incentives for entrepreneurs, but as well as for investors that are bringing in the money, and also thinking like startups. So they're thinking like startups to be able to adjust as the customer base, which are startups and investors need.
And so the government of Rwanda is working on this new law right now, and the idea is to set a certain number of criteria that startups should be eligible for, and based on that have access to a certain number of things. So it's not just about finance and tax regimes and so on and so forth. It's also about access to research.
If you, let's say someone come up with a new technology within the ecosystem, and then it requires a new policy, the delay for the company to really deploy or start working, because the policy has to be in place in order to deploy or start that company. So that's what really we are looking for, to see a number of policies coming up, but also if there is some new invention, it can really be catered for as quickly as possible, because timing when it comes to the startup world matters a lot.
Timing is critical to business. And this time, the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area has opened new avenues for startups, while also posing a demand for revised business models.
The government has been very forthcoming in terms of putting in place and advising and help working with the private sector to really take advantage of FCTA. So with the Startup Act, we believe the nimbleness and the speed that Rwanda tends to work on in terms of implementing some of these continental or regional initiatives, we believe that that's really what's going to cut a path for us.
How do you do business in another country? So you need to really understand their culture. You need really to look into the way of doing business in that country.
AFCT comes in as that platform that permits us to easily navigate these avenues, like travel to these places really easily, and with the provisions of the agreement, it would allow us to easily have our company established there, even if it's a subsidiary or maybe just a branch of our business.
Despite multiple challenges coupled with the pandemic, companies like Bongalo are confident in their skin and have faith in their unique business model.
We've had over 376 nights totally booked through our platform. A mobile wallet payment that makes it possible for host and guests to either as a host receive payout on mobile money or local bank transfer we don't have. And in addition to that, we support offline bookings. This means guests can actually reach out to us and we can sort out places for them to stay, and they only pay on arrival. So these are services that our competitors don't offer on their own platforms as well.
Around the world, startups are born every day as well as many die every day. So what is it that makes a startup a success or a lesson? Let's hear from these experts.
A team that is that has the right skills, but is also very motivated, that has that resilience.
Getting the feedback from the clients to make sure that you're not solving your own problem, but you're solving the problem that are really facing the community.
To have a good understanding of issues around raising capital, at what point to raise capital, what type of capital do you need.
Another thing that you look into is the speed of execution. It's very fast because the competition nowadays, it's really high when it comes to technology. There's new technology each and every year that is coming up. So if you delay like 2 years, you're still building a solution, then you might come back when it's already on the market.
Startups don't exist in a vacuum. If you're, for instance, in fintech, you need to, at some point in time, to work with a large telco or with a bank. So your ability to create those strategic partnerships at the right point in time in your evolution is really crucial. There are also elements that are a bit external to startups, the right business environment and so on. But this is what I would say you would need to take care of from the beginning.
I hope you have taken notes if you are planning to start a business in Rwanda. There are over 20 entrepreneurial support organizations in the country, and the government is constantly working on improving support through policies and incentives. So reach out to experts, network well, and be creative. You are, after all, living in Rwanda, which is known for its ease of doing business. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're with me, Narengwa Fiona Mothoni.